Good afternoon. Before we begin our instructional video, I just want to note that on some older or earlier models of the Acorn area, SKT1 and SKT2 and SKT3, there's no label on the cable to indicate where it belongs. Now, if this is the case, I suggest you do one of two things. You can label the cable with a magic marker or some sort of like paint or ink or something, so you know that the red cable goes on the top and the blue inked cable that you're going to mark goes on the bottom, and the yellow one goes on to the side. Now, on the later models, the cables themselves are labeled SKT1 to correspond with the letters on the board SKT1, so it's easy to reveal. As we make these units, we make them easier to service, but in the beginning it was a little, you learn from your mistakes. So if that's the case, please label the cables first so you don't get confused as to which one goes where, because if they're in backwards, that's going to be a problem. The second thing you might do is take a photograph of the area before you take off any cables. That helps me. I do that a lot in a lot of things I do in my life. So with that being said, we'll be ready to begin the replacement. There's basically 4 cables that you have to concern yourself with. Actually 3 plus 1 plug. The first one is here. The second cable is here. The third one is there. And there's one down here, which you can't really see, but it's right there. Anyway, what we're going to do is first, there's 2 clips that hold the card in place so it doesn't move around. We're going to push those in or out depending on which way the thing is oriented. Now you can see the card guide moves. We're going to raise the card slightly and carefully, even if you have to move it side to side. Okay, so now it's raised slightly. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to unplug the power connector here. You just move this tab forward and then pull the plug out. The second thing we're going to do is these 2 cables here, one is labeled SKT1 and SKT2. It says it on the board, SKT1, and then below this cable it says SKT2, and it should also be labeled on the cable itself, so you know when you put it back that there it is, SKT1, and the other one says SKT2. So when you go to put them back, you put them back in the right orientation. So what we're going to do is we're going to carefully remove these cables, just slide it back and forth and pull it off. And then we're going to remove SKT2. Okay, so we've done that. Now, what we're going to do is raise the card up slightly. And I'm going to manipulate the card here. I'm just going to bend this out just a little. Just a little. Just to get the card out. Now the card is loose, but there's still a cable attached right there. I don't know if you can see it or not. See it right there? So what we're going to do is we're going to loosen this cable with your fingers, turning it counterclockwise. And as you can see, those are the two. This is SKT1. It's a little blurry because I have to refocus the camera. And SKT2 right there. So one is on the top, two is on the bottom. And this is the only cable on this that screws in with a thread type screw. And this is con 1, which is where the plug goes in. So there's basically four connections. One plug, two RF cables that snap in, and the fourth one that screws in. So you got 3 cables and 1 plug. So now what you're going to do is to take the card out of the good unit, which is 0087, I believe. And you're going to install it in this unit. So let me just see if I can adjust the lens so that the picture is a little clearer here. Just get it to stay still. I don't know if that made it worse or better. Let me just set this down here so it doesn't move. Getting better. How's that? That's pretty good like that. So there we go. So now let's see if I can get SKT1. You can see it clearly now, and SKT2. Okay, and this is SKT3, which is the threaded cable here. That goes to SKT3. You can see the difference between SKT3 and SKT1 and 2 are the snap-on style connectors. So it's pretty simple, Junko. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put it back in the reverse order. So what I'm going to do first is focus on SKT3, which is the bottom right hand corner right here where my thumb is. We're going to screw that in first. So what I'm doing, let me just move the camera so you can see, is I'm going to screw this in. It's kind of hard to do with the camera in my way, but I'll do my best. There we go. And you just want to screw it in so it's finger tight, and then just some. All right, you want it relatively tight. Okay, so now that's on. You see that? That is on. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide the card into the card guides now. So what you have is, let's see if I can keep this still so I can. You have the card in the card guide here, and on this side as well. You see that? And we're just going to carefully slide it down. But when you're sliding it down, you want to be conscious of this cable looping around this tower here. See this? You want it on the outside of the tower, because when you put the cover on, you don't want this cable right here. So when the cover goes on, it crushes the cable. You want it like right here. And these two cables, here and here, you kind of want in between the two black capacitors, you know, resting. So we're going to slide this down. And so now you can see the orientation. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the two cables, and they should go in between the two capacitors. You see that here? 1, 2, and then the cables are in between. We're going to mount the bottom one first because it's easier. Okay, so that would be SKT2. And this one is labeled SKT2, so that one's going to go on the bottom. And what we're going to do is just line it up and then just snap it on carefully. You hear that click? And then we're going to take SKT1 and do the same. Like that. Snap. That's it. This is very important. This is the last step, okay, of the connections. You have to make sure that these are carefully lined up, these pins. Otherwise, there could be a serious problem. But to ensure that they're lined up, they have these two guides on the plug that correspond with the white tab. So what you're going to do is line that up and then take your thumb on this edge here and just push it gently. And you hear that little click? That's snapped in. So what we want to do now is check the corners of the plug to make sure when the cover goes on, it's not going to pinch any of the wires. Or see here how this is not good. Let's see where my finger is. See, the cable's right over the hole. I don't know, it's kind of dark, but you want to move that cable around the hole so the cover can go on. Once that's done, you're pretty much set. The only thing you have to do now is, you see these tabs? You have to snap them back in place. That's one. And I'll go to the other side. That's two. Now the card is installed and ready to go. And this will conclude the instructional video of replacing the power amp PCB. Thank you and have a great day.